Welcome into the ESPN FC studio. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley, Shaka, Hislop, Stewart, Robson and Ali Moreno. Plenty to get through over the next half an hour. A little later on the show, Mark Ogden will be here to look ahead to England against Croatia. Plus, we'll be reflecting on Cristiano Ronaldo. Surprise move from Real Madrid to Juventus. But we'll start with France, beating Belgium by 1-0 to book a place in the World Cup final. Maybe not quite the game we expected, Craig.
No, not a game that was in tow with the rest of the competition, and particularly the Belgium-Brazil game, which is, you know, the last one when they knocked them out, which was terrific end to end. And maybe it was the pressure and the expectations for both countries and what was at stake that took its toll. But I thought France just had a better shape. I thought France didn't try to complicate it as much as Belgium. And I thought they looked much more dangerous after the first 20 minutes when they were quite happy to sit in. I just felt not only did some of Belgium's big players not turn up, De Bruyne was quiet, Lukaku was pretty awful tonight, they weren't alone, is that because of the injuries and suspensions Roberto Martinez had, it was a 3 at the back and wing-backs when they had possession, it was 4 at the back when they didn't have. I just thought it was a little bit too convoluted and they never got any momentum.
Belgium were a bit disappointing, weren't they? Especially in the second half, Robert, because I thought, right, OK, come on, finals at stake, you've got to go for it.
They lose the goal. Now you think they're going to get on at France, they're going to try and get on the ball, people will make things happen, they'll play with urgency. But the only way I could see them score, and you have to give France a bit of credit because they defended well, was if they got the ball wide and got crosses into the box. And Roberto Martinez tried to change the system, he changed players into different areas, they lost their fluency, there was no cohesion, players were trying to do the wrong things at the wrong time. And the one player that I thought, although he didn't have a great game, and he was maybe at fault for the French goal, was Fellaini. He won a ball in the air and it just went past the post. When you're desperate to get back into the game, as they were against Japan, when they crossed the ball in the box, he wins it and scores the goal, the equaliser. That was the chance to get him in the box. Pogba did a good job on him, the centre-halves did a good job on him, but they didn't get enough crosses into him, and they took him off with 15 minutes to go. I thought that was a strange decision.
How could they be so good against Brazil and then struggle against this France side?
I think there was more space against Brazil because Brazil doesn't care who they're playing against. They're going to attack, they're going to have the ball, they're going to commit numbers forward. When there was a turnover, then in transition, you saw the best of Belgium, you saw the best of Hazard, you saw the best of De Bruyne, you saw the best of Lukaku. None of that today because the space was not quite there. Then you also have to say that the stage might have gotten a little big. You beat Brazil, and now the expectations change.
Sure.
Now it's different. Now it's the reality of, wait a minute, we have an opportunity to win the World Cup. Before, if we got past Brazil, it'd be great. We've achieved something. Well, now you got past Brazil, and here you were with an opportunity to take advantage of what's in front of you, and you're unable to deliver. To the credit of France, though, I thought that the work out of the midfield was excellent. Paul Pogba, this version of Paul Pogba is the one that we get excited about, not the one that we see often with Manchester United. He was a player that did the work defensively, and when there was an opportunity to get forward, used his athleticism to dominate. N'Golo Kante, once again, for me, has been the player of the tournament. And then Mbappe, that wasn't nearly as consistent as in other performances, but there were moments where he just showed you, yep, I'm something special. It was only Olivier Giroud, who I appreciate his work, I appreciate what he does for the team, but man, when you need a final touch, he wasn't quite there for France. If they had a real elite striker, this would not have been as close as it was.
I think at the same time, though, Roberto Martinez overtinkered this time around. Changed things against Brazil to very good effect. Chadli, good against Brazil, awful tonight. Dembele did not have a good game at all, and in my opinion, Roberto Martinez just took far too long to take him off. All that being said, though, I think France got it right. Didier Deschamps made the adjustments. As Craig pointed out, I thought Belgium started well. France looked a little bit struck by it. I'm not quite sure how to cope. But then once they found their rhythm and figured Belgium out, there was only one team that was going to score here.
Despite, again, Belgium dominating possession. They had double the amount of passes. The team on the counter-attack seems to be winning.
It tells you what a nonsense some of this possession stuff is.
Well, I mean, if you have a team built to play possession football, that's one thing. But I don't think this Belgium team is. They weren't able to get Eden Hazard on the ball in good areas. The luxury that Kevin De Bruyne had in running at the Brazil defence and a big gap of space in behind Fernandinho wasn't there today. That's down to N'Golo Kante, who continues to be simply amazing. Paul Pogba, who knows Fellaini as well as he does, they play together at club level, didn't allow Fellaini a sniff, despite how good and how strong Fellaini is in the air, and wasn't able to have much of an impact at all. Yet still, Pogba was able to find space going forward. And then when you have the pace and the run of Kylian Mbappe, maybe not his best game of the tournament so far, but continues to be unsettling. And France just adjusted and got people on the ball in the right areas in a way that Belgium couldn't figure out how to do.
And Craig mentioned it about the way Belgium changed from a back three when they were in possession, with Chadli playing high and wide on the right-hand side. Who was the left wing-back? It was Hazard. So he was away from the danger area. They could double up on him, they could force him inside, and he had to play square rather than being in a higher position, as he has been in previous games, playing closer to Lukaku, playing those little 1-2s. So that was a problem for them as well.
It also helps to have the centre-backs that France has. Because Rafael Varane and his speed can make up a whole lot of ground, and Umtiti scores the goals today, but together they look so solid. At no point did it look like Lukaku was going to do anything that was going to sustain some sort of danger for France. You didn't really feel like Belgium was ever going to score. A couple of chances here and there, but not much at all. And really, these guys are winning balls in the air. They're winning the ball over distance. They're tackling the ball. They're stepping up to it. They're pressuring. The line is together. Everything about the centre backs today was very good.
And credit to the fullbacks as well.
Yeah.
They were excellent. They weren't the number 1 and 2 fullbacks going into the tournament. They've come in. Pavard, who we've talked about before at Stuttgart, looks an excellent player at the moment.
Look, we sit here, we praise France's centre-backs, their full-backs. We praise N'Golo Kante and Paul Pogba. We criticise Mbappe and Giroud, and yet still, but for Thibaut Courtois, this could have quite easily been 4-0. That's telling you something about France and the options that they have.
Listen, Pogba's going into this tournament. It's less complicated for France, right? You've got your 4 at the back, you've got 2 good, strong centre-halves, particularly Varane, who's quick. You've got your midfield 3 anchored by Kante. It's allowing Pogba a bit more freedom, but he has a duty to do his defensive work, which he hasn't always done at Man United this season. And then you've got a front 3 that is just an excellent front 3. But I mean that without tongue-in-cheek, because excellent in the sense that it works well together, right? Because you've got Griezmann, who's the clever one. You've got Mbappe, who's got a bag of tricks and he's got everything. And then you've got the battering ram, who isn't pretty and doesn't do a lot, apart from create a bit of space and havoc there. So it works for France. It's been pretty simple in this competition, but it's keeping it simple and letting the players do the job.
How would you assess Belgium?
Do you know, if you'd have said to me before the tournament, Belgium semi-final, and we talked about it before the tournament, they would probably have to face Brazil, I would have said, fabulous.
Yep.
Now we'll look at it. Argentina out, Germany out, Spain out, Brazil were out because they knocked them out. The French are good, but they're not, you know, nobody thought before the tournament Deschamps was going to guide them there. So I think now being in this situation with a great squad of players, and with Croatia and England in the other final, I think they failed their objective, to be honest with you, because they'll never get a better chance. They'll never get a better chance at a World Cup. Neither will England, neither will Croatia, and neither will France.
I think I'm right in saying that everyone thought France were going to win this game. That Belgium were underdogs going into this. So it's very difficult to sell them as failing their objective, isn't it? In the sense that they were beaten by a better team.
What was their objectives in this, once they knocked out Brazil? If their objectives before the World Cup, well, not to win it because they didn't think they were good enough. What was their objectives when they beat Brazil? It was to win the World Cup. Look at the other segment. England and Croatia. People are scratching their head how these two countries, without disrespecting them, why they're in that final. You can talk about luck of the draw, you can talk about this, that, and the next thing, but they're there.
Right.
The real big guys, historically, the real big guys are not there. The first ever semi-finals without Argentina, Brazil or Germany involved.
Like, I understand their objective was to win this tournament coming in, but I don't think that was a realistic expectation, or certainly none of us thought so. And even so, you get beaten by France.
It should have been their expectation, no? Considering the players, the golden generation, all that rhetoric.
I didn't think they'd get this far. And for reasons that I was
it becomes realistic once you beat Brazil, though.
Right, once you beat Brazil. But to say that their tournament is a failure, when they've won every game so far, they've lost to a team that everybody fancied them to win or to lose against, to say they're a failure, I think is a little bit harsh. I admit Roberto Martinez overtinkered and overthought this one. Romelu Lukaku was a huge disappointment.
Lukaku?
And has been... certainly today, it was just downright disappointing. Nothing you could take from that. But then you could say the exact same about Hazard, about Kevin De Bruyne. I think the disappointing thing from Belgium today was that with all their talent, nobody stepped up. Nobody showed well. That is a disappointment. I don't put this tournament down as a failure.
You just said with all the talent. That's a kind of contradiction in itself, with all their talent.
I'm saying...
I'm not saying it's a fail. I'm saying they've failed to meet their objectives, right? Once they knock Brazil out, it's a different ball game. It is a completely different ball game, as it is for all the teams that were left in. Absolutely, 100%.
They won't go home a happy squad. They go home disappointed because they haven't, as you said, fulfilled their objective. This was their big chance. Having beaten Brazil, they should go on and certainly play better than they did against France. And that's the disappointment. They didn't play well enough today and didn't come up with the answers when France defended brilliantly all around the field. The manager didn't come up with the answers and the players on the field didn't come up with the answers. And the big player, your Lukaku, when balls played into the box and balls played into the front, you want him to hold it up the play, link it up with De Bruyne and link it up with Hazard. He didn't do it.
I totally agree. All I'm saying is there's a difference between disappointment and failure. So it's disappointing. I don't see this as a failure, no.
I suppose you're looking at me because you want to get some sort of perspective as to whether this is failure or disappointment. Look, once you beat Brazil, I think the tournament changes. And the expectations have to change as well. The objective have to be much bigger. If you lose to Brazil in the quarterfinals of a World Cup, you know, you go home, you're like, look, this happens. This is Brazil, very talented team. This happens. But once you get past that step and you get into semifinals, when it's France, it's Croatia, and it's England, man, this is as good a chance as you're ever going to get. So in terms of what the new tournament was after they beat Brazil, yes, it's a form of failure.
Listen, you got a striker in Lukaku. Whether you love him or you hate him, he's leading the line for one of the biggest clubs in the world, right?
Yep.
You got Kevin De Bruyne, would walk into almost any club in the world. You got Eden Hazard, who Chelsea would try to fend off Real Madrid, right? You got three centre-backs that would probably walk into most clubs in most countries, okay? If company's fit. And you've got a goalkeeper that's in what, the top three?
Yeah.
Top 3 or 4 in the world? Minimum? Sorry. That was a bit of a bottle job tonight. I just couldn't handle it, and the French had the nous.
It'll be in these players' mind and Roberto Martinez's mind for the rest of their lives. They'll be thinking, if only we'd have played slightly better, if only we'd showed more urgency in that last 20 minutes, if only we'd found an answer.
We'll see another World Cup semi-final.
Here's the thing, though. 22 players starting on that pitch. If you were picking a starting 11, you have what, 3, 4 Belgians, maybe. I don't see this as a failure.
So France through to their 6th international final. Mixed record. They're 3 for 2 when you take a look at it. They, of course, won Euro 94 and the World Cup against Brazil. Then went on to win Euro 2000. Their last 2 finals haven't gone well. They lost on penalties against Italy in 2006. And, of course, just a couple of years ago, lost against Portugal in the European Championship. Let's talk, meanwhile, about Cristiano Ronaldo. It is official. He is a Juventus player. Ooh. This is a story that just seemed to snowball so quickly. We were sat here just a few days ago going, oh, yeah, we see this every year, don't we? He just wants a new contract. He wants a cuddle from Perez. But he's gone. He's gone to Serie A.
It's an amazing story. You almost get the feeling Ronaldo wanted this. He wanted to make sure it was done before this damn World Cup was over to steal a few headlines. But, you know, I think most of us, myself, I know we've talked about it, didn't think. We thought it was another posturing from Ronaldo. We've seen it before, trying to get more money, trying to get more love. Why would he leave Real Madrid? I can't crunch the numbers, but they're big.
Yep.
I don't know how they're going to make it work, but they think they can. But it's a hell of a signing. I mean, just in terms of taking the money out of the equation, when you look at what, probably averaging 50 goals a season. I know he's 33, but it's a heck of a statement for Juventus and Italian football.
Who's the winner here? Juventus, Real Madrid, obviously Ronaldo.
He's a big winner.
Yeah.
He is indeed a big winner, and I think Juventus, for many different reasons, I do believe that this is a win for them as well.
Look at these numbers. They are extraordinary.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That'll do. As for Real Madrid, I think it's a win in the sense that you get flexibility, but is it to be determined in terms of the players that you bring in? Because if the players that you bring in don't work out, then you always have to answer the question about Cristiano Ronaldo. The fact is that Real Madrid needed to start a new era. They needed to find a way to live after Ronaldo. And they're doing so with flexibility and with players that they can go after. And mind you, if you're a big superstar out there that have dreams and aspirations of playing with Real Madrid, and Real Madrid comes knocking, beware all of those clubs. Because all those players are now available anytime that Real Madrid comes knocking, people are going to listen.
I think Tottenham better hope Harry Kane doesn't have a good semi-final and final.
Yeah.
because he's
Throw
going
his cell phone out the plane on the way up.
new contract or not, new stadium or not, he's making a name for himself again, if he hasn't already, in the last 3 or 4 years, and he could make another huge statement over the next, 3 or 4 days. He's not the only one out there, but he certainly is a player who's been mentioned in those kind of... for a move to clubs that Real...
They've got to match the goals. They've got to buy someone that's going to match the goals or get near to it that Ronaldo has scored for Real Madrid. Harry Kane could do that, but I think you've mentioned it before, they need someone that's also going to provide, because there's talk of Benzema going, there's talk about Bale maybe not fulfilling his potential since he's been at Real Madrid, so they also need a Hazard.
From a Juventus perspective, without Cristiano Ronaldo, they've been in 2 of the last 4 Champions League finals. Could this push them over the line?
Yeah, because they had centre-forwards that scored goals. Mandzukic has been good at the far post. Higuain, they bought for a lot of money to go and score goals, but they haven't quite been good enough in the big games in the finals. They won Serie A 7 times on the trot. Ronaldo will give them something different. He's brilliant in the air. He's a great box player, but they need players to give them crosses into the box. They've got those players. Douglas Costa from one side. They've got Cuadrado from the other side. They like to get their fullbacks high up the field to get crosses into the box. If they can do that, they've got a chance of winning the Champions League.
Out of everyone, Shaq, you seem the most unsure about this move.
Yeah, well, unsure certainly in the long-term repercussions for Juventus. Look, it makes sense. Having Ronaldo in your team, regardless of the numbers, if you can make them work, makes a whole lot of sense. But this is an ageing Juventus side. And as good as they've been, you mentioned their record in Champions League over the last 4 years, I still feel for Juventus to compete consistently over the course of Ronaldo's contract at the highest level, not just in Serie A, but in Europe, you need to continue to replenish the squad. Now, they spend an awful lot of money in transfer fee. They will spend an awful lot of money in terms of his wages weekly. When Juventus hasn't done their business this way, as much as they spent on Higuain to bring him in, I thought that was more for the short term. It didn't work out. Can they continue to do that? It's not something they've done. I'm going to just step on the brakes just a little bit to see how it works in the long term.
How did this happen? How did Cristiano Ronaldo move from Real Madrid to Juventus? Gab Marcotti explains it in some detail over on the website. Plus, we chat about what impact this could have on Italian football. Coming up after the break, we return to the World Cup. Mark Ogden joins us as we'll be looking ahead to England against Croatia. Welcome back. Look at these scenes on the Champs-Élysées. Incredible stuff. France celebrating in style, booking a place in the World Cup final. Who will be joining them? Of course, it will either be Croatia or England. According to the bookies, England favourites 13-8 on. Croatia at 13-10. In Moscow, he's been following England throughout this tournament. Mark Ogden. Mark, less than 24 hours to go now, of course, until kick-off. What's the feeling in the camp?
Well, I was in Rapino on yesterday, and it was just remarkable how light-hearted everybody is and how relaxed they are. It was almost like they're preparing for a pre-season friendly. So the England lads are very kind of relaxed, very chilled, and it's almost like they can't wait for this game to come. And I'd imagine a bit more tension before a World Cup semi-final, but they are really relaxed. So if that's a positive, then England have got that on their side.
Mark, whatever happens tomorrow in that match against Croatia, is it fair to say that England have exceeded expectation? And how could that come into play over the 90 minutes against Croatia with regards to kind of playing with house money?
Yeah, I mean, England have definitely exceeded expectations. I didn't expect them to get beyond the quarter-finals. The draw looked like Brazil or Germany, and they've had a decent run. And against the semi-final against Croatia, you know, it's going to be a tough game because Croatia, the way they play the game with Modric and Rakitic, they could pass England off the pitch, and that is the concern, that Croatia, if they're not fatigued after 2 extra time and penalties games, they are, for me, the favourites. But England seems to have some momentum. It's just whether they can stop Modric and Rakitic dominating the game.
Let's be honest, most of the English journalists out there following the team and have been given some great access, they're all having to go and change their holidays.
Yeah, this is it.
because nobody expected it. But personally, myself, I've got a good feeling about this England team tomorrow. They were very professional against Sweden. I think they'll need to play better. But I do agree with Mark. I think that Croatia are going to offer a different perspective, particularly if it's Brozovic, Rakitic and Modric in that midfield. That's a midfield that can cut you open, that can play a killer pass. Yes, they've had 2 games, it was 120 minutes. They did look tired. So it is going to be a different prospect for England, clearly, than the one they faced against Sweden. I'm not expecting any changes from Gareth Southgate. I don't buy all this Raheem Sterling nonsense. I think he's absolutely guaranteed to play. The back three have worked well, and I think if England play well, they can win the game.
Robbo, you're definitely not a fanboy. Definitely not. You're an objective pundit.
I just like to look at
this fact. But you were telling me earlier you can't see England losing this.
I can't see England losing. As Craig just said about the midfield of Croatia, yeah, they could. We're saying they could pass England off the park. They haven't passed Denmark off the park recently, and they didn't pass Russia off the park. They looked a very tired side, and when they played with Kramaric in behind, so they played with somebody in front of Rakitic and Modric, he wasn't really a threat. He scored the goal, but he hardly got involved in the play. Mandzukic looked tired. The two wide players are asked to track back, so that's going to be a problem for them if England start to dominate possession. I cannot see any other result than England winning. Their back three are playing really well. They're coming out with the ball at the right times. There's good movement. They're getting crosses into the box and set plays. We saw another set play win the semi-final today. It could be another set play or 2 or 3 set plays that England caused problems against Croatia with.
Isn't that something scary to think about? There is no way that England loses this game.
I don't like that.
When you start hearing that rhetoric, you're like, okay, you're trying to look for reasons. Okay, hold on a second. We can't just come into this game thinking that Croatia cannot hurt us. Croatia can hurt England. So I think it's important that England dictate the pace of this game and play it with energy and with a certain pace that forces Croatia to cover spaces so that you actually see the effects of having played 120 minutes back-to-back games. That's what I think it's important, that England continue to play at a pace that affects Croatia and dictates the way that Croatia is going to play the game. Not that Croatia is going to slow it down with the possession. No, England is going to speed it up with their possession.
Mark, I thought in today's semi-final it was a little bit flat. There didn't seem to be quite the atmosphere that you would associate with such a big match. Will it be different tomorrow, do you think?
I think it'll be different because I think the way that England play, they are front foot. They can't play a patient game. They were patient for 10 minutes against Sweden and it didn't work for them. They have to play with high energy, with high tempo. And that for me is the way they play. But it's also the biggest danger to England because if they are too gung-ho and they're too kind of on the front foot, then the problem is at the back, Croatia can pick them off. And I do worry that Jordan Henderson might be a little bit exposed at the base of that midfield. But I agree with the lads. England should be fitter, should be stronger, and they've got the confidence, but they have to be wary of Modric and Rakitic.
Prediction then, Mark?
Cheers, guys.
No, don't pretend you didn't hear me. Prediction. What's going to happen, Mark?
I think England will take it to penalties and who knows, Croatia good at penalties. I think England will win.
Oh, pretended.
Well, listen,
Pry that out of
that's the old double bluff, that is. I would never dismiss this Croatian team with the Perisic, Mandzukic, all the guys, Modric. I just think England look fresh. Their injury count seems very low. They're playing the same way every game with the back three. The vibes coming out of it are great. What could possibly go wrong? I think England are going to win.
Shaq?
I think this England team has looked good throughout. Belgium game doesn't count. Colombia, totally different threat than Croatia. I see England winning as well.
You see nothing but an England win.
England to win by 2-0.
Ooh. Not only are they winning 2-0, it's going to be comfortable. Yeah, it's going to be no problem. England is going to the finals. Maybe.
How does that make you feel?
This is the worst news I've ever heard. Everyone predicted England.
By the way, where's VAR gone?
All right, he gone.
VAR's gone.
It could come back to help you tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's going to be a big decision tomorrow, isn't it?